thought I was lying in bed, but when my eyes popped open, I remembered where I was. I'm in the magic pool of recovery at the garden of the Inn of the Newcomers. Be here now, I instructed my spirit. A clean robe was nicely folded up on a chair for me, and my sandals were tucked neatly underneath. Be here now, I commanded my mind. I am in the garden of the Inn of the Newcomers. Be here now. The golden tree symbols and the song were flashing in my mind. I couldn't quite shake them. I walked over to inhale a wake-up call from the rose bushes nearby. Oh, that's beautiful. Red roses are my favorite. I went in for another deep breath. Oh, so lovely. I looked around at the rest of the garden. Things were much brighter now. Beautiful. Yes, I'm here now. There were fabulous, iridescent, green and red hummingbirds zipping about, bright yellow swallowtail butterflies dancing, and sounds of busy buzzing bees. On the far side, opposite the pool, I found 2 extremely large crystal points, half buried, set on either side of a bench. I knelt down next to one, throwing my arms around it for good measure. Thank you for being here. The crystal bench gave me a new point of view. Instead of looking up from the pool, I sat eye to eye with the flowers and the hummingbirds that flew right up to buzz me hello. I was grateful to feel a part of it all. My eyes popped open, shocking me awake. I am in Fair City, in the garden of the Newcomers Inn. Be here now. Okay, that worked. I felt well enough to head out and get a dose of green grass. Oh, yes, this is what I needed. There was a soft breeze caressing my hair and grassy fluff massaging my feet. I love this place. I collapsed on the first bench I came to in the center park and eventually rolled out onto the grass. Oh, that's better. The baby blue sky was clouded with murmurations of dancing starlings and chasing ravens. That's freaking gorgeous, I blurted. My head was rolling around following the birds' patterns when my eyes stopped on a familiar sight. Frank! He plopped down next to me. Hi there, lovely lady. I brought a blanket and a picnic. A picnic? Yum! I know that's not normal, but our favorite Bright came to see me bearing gifts and instructions. Gwen said that I was to find you and share this special food. It's designed to restore our energy quickly. And the blanket? Oh, well, after I intuited that you were here, I went back for a blanket to lay on. I think we're going to be here for a while. We both laughed. Oh, thank God, laughter. Oh, I thought I'd never feel like that again. Frank stroked my hair. Yeah, I'm having a hard time too. He laid down to face me, propping his head on his hand. I reached for his hand. I could feel the heat coming off his palm. How do you feel after sharing light with me? You know, I've never been able to do that with anyone I didn't already have feelings for. Frank caressed my hand and placed our palms together. The heat was comforting. Me neither. Frank, yes? Something's pulsing. Do you feel it? Oh, yeah, I sure do. I could feel you pulsing from across the city. That's how I knew you were here, like a beacon. He reached out and pulled me into a lover's embrace and murmured softly in my ear, "Me, me." Frank's fingers stretched in and out, miming his beacon sounds. Have you always been weird, or is this a special view into your psyche? I asked. I figure this attraction will wear off soon, but for now, let's just relax. He stroked my cheek softly. I looked into his beautiful green eyes and smiled in relief. I was so tired. Okay, I think I know how this ends, but I'd rather we stayed friends for now. Yeah, okay. Can we still hug? Whined Frank. Oh, don't be silly. Of course we can hug. I rolled over into his embrace, tucking my head in his arm. His body heat, or was it mine, was steaming up my robe. I found myself absent-mindedly stroking his chest, wondering what his strong muscles felt like. He slid his hand up my sleeve, caressing my arm. Gosh, Frank, I think I'm confused. How so? Well, I think I've been attracted to you since we met, but my mind is throwing up red flags. Frank just smiled and tugged on my arm. I don't think what we're experiencing now or what we went through in the woods is normal. I think that the fact that we were able to join our light at all on command says much more than we understand. Let's dive down that rabbit hole later, after a full recovery. Just be with me here, now, at this moment. His now had a deep, firm, and attractive quality in his voice. I see your point. I fell back onto the blanket, leaning on him. We spent a long time on the grass, feeding each other grapes and other juicy tidbits from the basket. He opened up to me about his feelings in the forest, and we talked a bit about our childhood fears. After a long silence, Frank packed up the food into the basket and reached for my hand. Let's go for a walk around the park. I'd like to show you some of my favorite places. Sure. I got up and smoothed my wrinkled robe. Do you mind if we go slow? Of course not. He led me around the park and showed me some alcoves to explore. We went to the park flower garden where I stuffed my nose into every open rose. We strolled by the children's play area and natural fish ponds, and then he took me to the waterfalls. I followed him through a gurgling stream and jumped onto water-worn stones before ducking behind the fall's curtain. The crashing roar sang a new harmony within the cave behind it. This place is gorgeous, like a fairy garden. Wow, the walls are really smooth. Interjections were flying out like oohs and ahs. Near the back of the waterfall, there was a crack in the floor. It diverted enough water to create a deep pool that reflected sparkles and twilights from the crystal ceiling. It was breathtaking. I think this pool is deep enough to sit in. Frank grabbed me into a harsh embrace. Whoa, I break, you know. He laughed. Sorry, I slipped a little and pulled harder than I intended. He leaned in slow and pressed his lips against mine. My heart raced. It had been a while. He reached down to pull my robe over my head and slipped off my bathing suit straps. I stopped his hand and stepped back. Frank, if we do this too, we might not be able to break our bond. I'm okay with that, he said. I'm not. What if it isn't real? You are too real, he said, laughing. Look, we did something really great back there in the forest. I know we did, and we did it together, I said. Yes, that's special. Much more special than I think either of us understand. Exactly. That's why I'm questioning. We can work together energetically, and that's what's special. But what if we can't do it anymore after being physical? I'm betting we can't. I'm hoping this will break our bond. Oh, you want to break the bond? My hands were on my hips now. Frank, I don't think I'm following. Are you saying that every time we work together, it's likely to end with a sexual encounter? Well, we don't know if we'll work together again after this, but we might. Is that so bad? Well, yes and no. It's not bad per se. I'm just worried about my own attachment. I don't want to break my own heart through an act of service, but I do see your point now, and I would like to extinguish our attraction as soon as possible. Ouch. Does that mean you agree? Sorry. Yes, I guess I do. I walked back into his arms and kissed him. Frank resumed where he left off. At some point after the fruit was all gone, our auras separated and returned to us. We dressed each other and made our way back to the city center park before separating and waved our goodbyes. It seemed heartless after our intimate encounter, but I was glad to feel myself again. When I got to my cabin room, a beautiful robe with golden trim at the sleeves and neck waited for me, along with a note. When you're ready, come and meet us at the pool. Gwen. I tried on the robe and matching bathing suit and took a moment to notice the dancing flashes of gold flickering around the room before leaving. The place was packed. I wondered if every bright and fair city was here. The yellow gold colors changed the water from a deep blue to a bright green. There was laughter and frolicking with beach balls and other pool toys. I found a chaise lounge to carefully park my new cool robe. I surveyed the pool for Gwen, but there were so many people, I couldn't find her face. I looked back at my gown and the chaise and decided to wait there. Hey, stranger. I turned around. Hi, Frank. Nice duds. I showed Frank my new robe, too. Maybe we gotta level up. I got a note to meet Gwen here. Yeah, I got the same note. It's just that I can't find her. It's like a bright convention. Whee! A whistle blew, and everyone stopped their party. Hi! I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone for coming and make a few announcements. We're going to have 2 classes available on either side of the pool, and then later we'll offer a Q&A section. We'll be starting in a bit. I wonder what classes they're going to teach. It must be important for all these people to show up. I didn't realize Fair City had so many brights. I nodded my head in agreement while looking for Gwen. I wonder if it's about the properties of water. Frank, maybe that's why we were given these gold robes. Maybe we're considered brights now. Frank listened and scanned for Gwen too. Nah, he didn't seem convinced. Here comes Gwen now. Hey, you two. I'm glad you were both able to make it. Have a seat. I have something I need to talk with you about real quick. Frank pulled up a chaise lounge and we all sat down. Remember when you two emerged from the forest and I said that the other Brights and myself would like to talk with you about your experiences? Yes. Frank and I were still speaking synchronously. Well, it turns out that all of the Brights would like to hear about your adventures. You see, we've been discussing going into the forest to retrieve lost people for years, but rarely does anyone take the risk. It would mean so much for everyone to hear how you did it. What do you mean, how we did it? I asked. Gwen flashed a smirky smile. We'd all like to hear about the plans you made before entering. And, well, I know this might be awkward, but we'd like to hear about what happened afterwards, too. You see, many of the Brights would like to do the same work, but they won't do it without some sort of plan. The men would like to hear from Frank and the women from you. What do you say? Are you game? I looked sideways at Frank. He looked as surprised as I felt. We just need to talk about what we did to get in and out of the forest, and that's it? Frank conveniently skipped over the full request. Gwen shifted on the chaise and straightened out her robe. What we would like, Frank, what I would like is for each of you to explain what you did in order to go into the woods and get back out again. And then I'd like everyone to take a quick break and then have you two sit together with the microphone and answer any questions. Keeping in mind, Frank, that the questions are likely to get highly personal, specifically about how you both replenished your energies and whether you feel it worked or not. Frank ran his large hands along his sleeves as if to iron them. Gwen, we've spent a lot of time communing after the woods in order to get our balance back, and you're saying you'd like us to talk about that? My eyes went wide, and I looked from Frank to Gwen to Frank again. I think you should, yes. I think everyone here needs to know about everything you needed to do to survive and return from the Black Wood with lost people and animals in tow, including your whole recovery process. I'll do it, I said. I can see this is much more important than I ever imagined. Frank has tried to tell me how important it is, and now you are too, so I submit. I will happily train anyone who wants to learn. Frank let out a sigh. Me too. I could do it. I need to do this as much as I needed to go into the forest. I see the point of training people, and I'll happily submit also. Gwen took a moment to look at us and survey our auras. You're both very bright. You look beautiful, she said, clapping and smiling. I sat down on my side of the pool. Hi, I waved. Gwyneth tells me that everyone here would like to know what Frank and I did in order to visit the dark wood. Waves of light nodded with approval. Okay, well, there's no time here, so the best way to say this is, a while ago, I felt a calling to return to the woods. I think it was the lost people calling out. Anyway, I figured I needed to tell someone where I had planned to go, so I went to the city center to find my friend Frank. He's usually there, and I knew where to find him. After telling him my plans, he realized how strongly he felt about accompanying me and asked to come along. Well, of course I was happy to have someone else as company, so I said yes. A woman raised her hand. Weren't you afraid? I probably should have been very afraid, but the drive to get the people out of the woods was much stronger, and I knew I had to try. I figured that if I got lost, that I would be able to intuit my way back to the light eventually. Luckily for me, Frank was coming too, and he had some really good ideas. One was to bring food and water in case we got lost, and the other really good one was for us to hold hands. Another woman raised her hand. Yes? Was your light brighter when you held hands? Good question. Yes, it was. I was just going to get into that. Originally, we were going to hold hands in the forest, so we didn't lose each other. But I had this other idea to walk in a short way, no more than about an hour, and then we'd hold both hands and raise our energy, turn around, and walk back. We agreed that no matter how short the distance, we would turn around the moment one of us was ready, even if we didn't go very far. So back to your question. Our light increased so much by holding both hands. It was incredible. I remember it was pulsating throughout the wood. When we returned, Gwen told us she could see the beacon inside Fair City. I didn't entirely understand what happened, but it seemed that through this act of compassion, Frank and I managed to raise our energy 100-fold. What happened after you returned? Asked another woman in the back. I heard that you and Frank disappeared for a long while. We did. We thought we were okay at first. Frank knew that the pulsating was highly unusual and sought me out, but I thought everything was fine. Well, anyway, Gwen also understood that we would need time to heal and balance out our energies again. We ate a lot of fruit. Gosh, this is hard to tell, but I think you need to hear it. So, the blinking light, Frank and I have compatible energy, which created an unusual light show. It was this communion that drained our energy. We needed to spend time together until we were able to regenerate what we had lost. Frank figured that the ancient woods absorbed the light like a sponge. I think only a couple in love would share this light, but we're not in love, though we do have a lot of attraction. And no wonder, commented another woman. Yes, true. Each of us embodied the other's light. Anyway, the important part is that we engaged in physical communion, or sex, in order to recall the light and energy. I don't know if we could have done it another way, but that's what worked for us. Looking back on it now, I think the universe has had a large part to play in our coming together to do this work. The group clapped and chatted amongst themselves. I looked over at Frank and saw that his talk was also over. As planned, we walked over to where Gwen held the mic. Frank spoke first. Hi everyone. Okay, so this beautiful lady and I decided to commit to passing all of our information on to you. Do you have any questions? Gwen pointed to the man with his hand up. Can you go into the woods without a partner? Frank answered the man's question. I believe Gwen has been through the woods by herself before, right? Gwen stepped up to the microphone. I have traveled in one direction by myself before, but I returned with this one. Gwen grabbed me close. Who really had a strong light before coming to Fair City. So I don't know if I could do it both directions without help, but I do know that I didn't need to share myself with anyone to regain my lost energy. The same man continued, addressing me this time. Are you saying that you came in from the dark forest? No, I was outside the forest at the entrance when I met Gwen. He continued with another. You've gone into the forest twice now? And having had the experience of communing, do you wish you had that option after your first trip with Gwen? I do remember being very tired, and I spent a lot of time in the small pool at the Newcomers Inn. I would say it was not needed. I think that everyone who feels prepared can travel into the wood to get people. It's just that Frank and I had this additional experience of unified pulsating light, which could be seen from within Fair City. It was this phenomenon that drained our energies, not the walk. I hope that's clear. I looked around to see people nodding their heads. A woman raised her hand. That's really helpful, but to be sure I understand you, you believe that any bright can travel into the woods and return without being drained of a significant amount of energy? Do I have that correct? I nodded. Yes. She continued. But if I would like to be seen like a beacon on the ocean during a dark and stormy night, I could take a partner with me, someone I already have a connection with, and we may have the experience of pulsating by touching hands and raising our energy. And if we do pulsate, we will be severely drained of our energy, but we can quickly regain that energy through tantric sexual relations. Is that right? Do I understand you correctly? I answered the woman. Yes, that was our experience. But I'd like to remind you all that Frank and I are not brides. You might have no need to come together at all after returning to Fair City. Maybe you will sleep more, or maybe you'll go for a swim. What we're telling you is what happened to us and what we needed to do. Gwen stepped forward at this point. Thank you everyone for coming. I think that wraps up our class, don't you? See you next time. It was a rhetorical question with an abrupt ending. Everyone got up and clapped before leaving. I decided the topic was moving too far away from what actually happened. Frank and I were still seated together. Gwen, what do you think about our decision to commune and to raise our light in the woods? 2 things. 1. It was an excellent idea. It gave you the courage to do something that needed doing and kept you from having doubts, which dampen auric light. 2nd, I think you both may have been given a gift. That pulsating light was highly unusual. I think it was a beautiful, happy accident. But knowing those two things, I would say that the two of you have some choices to discuss. She winked at us, spun on one heel, and walked away. I watched her walk from us for a moment before turning to face Frank. His beautiful green eyes were the balm. I took a deep breath and sighed. I reached out for his hand and held it between my palms. Frank leaned in to rest his forehead on mine. How about a swim? We stripped off our robes and dove in, and we swam up toward each other and hung out in the shallow end of the pool. Frank supported me by my arched back as I laid on the water's surface. The water reflected our energy like it did in the cave, bouncing off the edges and rippling over itself. Only this pool was bigger. Large ripples of water were upsetting the calm, and for an instant I was underwater. I sat up, sputtering. Are you all right? Yes, I'm more than all right, thank you. He pulled me closer and whispered, You're all wet. I laughed. It was the cave all over again. Kiss me, Frank. No, let the water move us for a while. I just want to look at you in that bright sun. You're so beautiful. You too, Frank. Your eyes are sparkling in the sunshine. We stayed like that for a long while, looking at each other with a new freshness. I rested my head on Frank's chest and let the little waves rock us gently until our light brightened. It was a message of love. We didn't have to get physical about it. We could have just let it go and walked out of the cave, offered Frank. But we didn't, I said, kissing his strong lips. No. And now what? He asked. Now we wait for the message? If our light and purpose are so unusual, then there must be something we'll be called to do. We should keep our vibration high and be on the lookout for synchronicity. Sweet. I like that. Yes. Do you think we're going back into the woods? Eventually, yes, I do. But for now, I think we're still off balance. Gosh, what are we going to do, Frank? How about we have a relationship? Both busted out laughing. I reached up and smoothed his beautiful mane of hair. Okay, I guess we'd better. I don't know what else to do other than move away and live somewhere else in order to avoid you altogether. And that just doesn't sound right. But I want us to be vigilant with looking for signs, because if we're supposed to do something else? Frank propped himself up on one elbow. No, listen, you had a calling to go into the woods. Well, I think my calling is to support and protect you. And if you'll have me, I'd like to do it full time. I sat up. Whoa, Frank, you're going really fast here. I'm like a deer. Don't scare me. I don't think so. Let me ask you this. Do you do better when you're in a relationship or out? I do much better when I'm in a relationship. It allows me to think clearer and be more creative. I understand what you're saying, but I think I just need a little time to get used to it all, Frank. Frank hugged me tight and whispered in my ear again, "Yes, my love." I walked back to the inn of the newcomer by myself, grateful for the time and mental clarity. When I rounded the third corner, I bumped into Gwen. "Gwen!" We exchanged happy grins. "Hi! I was hoping I'd run into you. I think in the short time I've been in Fair City, I can say that you are much more in tune with synchronicity than to just hope to run into someone you need to speak to, right?" Gwen laughed at being called out. "Actually, it's me who needs to speak to you." "Uh-oh, sounds serious." "I think it is. I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "You see, I know Frank and I had a special moment in the woods, but personally, I've had nothing but special, different, and downright wacky experiences my whole life." "Well, wait, let me guess. You'd like to find a way to have more separation from Frank?" That's sort of it. To be more specific, I'd like for you to arrange for him to return to the wood, preferably with someone at blue, purple, or gold level. "What is it you're hoping to spark?" she asked. "I'd like for Frank to detach from me, completely if possible. And I think that might have the best chance of happening if he had a similar experience with someone else. Then he might discover that he has a stronger part to play in his own abilities. I think he might be playing with fire. What if he totally loses confidence in himself and gets lost in the woods?" "Yeah, I thought about that. I saw an image of him being successful, and I think that if he leaves very soon, he'll be confident enough to have a good experience. I also think that after the class we did, you'll have an easier time finding someone to accompany him. I saw more than a few women's energy matching his color after we gave our testimony." "I see what you're saying. I think you're right. I'll check into it and see what I can do." "There's more, Gwen." "Okay, I'm all ears." "I have no desire to be paired with anyone again, even if it's by accident. I learned a lot from my experiences with Frank, stuff I didn't know I was doing, but the truth is, I've had a lot of experiences where the energy I was working with was pulsating. So I have no doubts that I can recreate it. It's just me being me." "Really? Why didn't you say so when you first got out of the woods?" "Well, I think I was totally swept up in Frank's emotions." "Are you sure he's Earth, Gwen? He throws energy like a water adept." Gwen sucked in a quick breath. "Oh, my God, I think you're right. He does throw energy like water. Like a child who hasn't learned their water lessons." I began pacing. "Yep, I think he's hiding behind Earth energy to escape the deep." I whipped around to face Gwen. "Hiding? Yeah, I can't do that. He's a great guy and all. I just don't want to get distracted from my calling right now." Gwen was nodding her head. "Don't have time for a project? I've been waiting to do something with my life, and it's finally here, and I'm having so much fun. I just can't go backwards anymore. No more 3D looping." I sat down, shaking my head. Gwen patted my hand. "I know what that's like. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. I know just the partner for him. Jenny." Jenny was a beautiful, tall, blonde woman. who'd been hanging around Frank. I was a little jealous. "Oh, Gwen, not Jenny." Gwen patted my hand again. "Hey, now's not the time for jealousy. You need a distraction, and she's it." "Oh, you're right, of course." Gwen nodded proudly. "I have been jealous. She's been showing a lot of interest in Frank, and her aura is purple like his. But it's more than that. She's gone into the forest once before and brought some animals back with her. I think they might be able to find a way to help each other learn some new skills. Their experience will be well matched, and they'll come through the experience safely." "Gosh, she does sound like a good fit." Gwen got up to walk and talk. "And she's a water adept. She's a lot of experience with encouraging shallow swimmers to dive deep." Gwen signed air quotation marks to emphasize her point. "Oh, thank God. Thank you so much, Gwen. I feel much lighter. The last thing is, there's more?" We laughed. "Yeah, Gwen, I'm going into the forest again. But this time I'm going alone. That's so dangerous, and it sounds totally reckless. Listen, I need you to be positive for me and match your expectations to that. I know I can do this, Gwen. It's my destiny to bring people back to the light and back to the garden. I'm not afraid. If I get stuck, then I'm meant to be stuck, and I'll have to figure that out. I'm okay with it. I know Spirit will guide me." Gwen held up the palm of her hand. "Okay. Oh, okay. I think I'm getting it. You're saying this is your life's purpose?" I threw my arms up. "Yes, you got it." "Oh, okay. Oh, thank God, Gwen. I'm so glad you understand. Okay, here's the next curveball." Gwen slumped down on a nearby bench. "There's more?" I nodded. "There's always more." She shared another laugh.